a prominent judge was pulled over on suspicion of DUI.
Have you had anything to drink tonight?
No.
You sure? Because it smells like either you've drowned yourself in perfume or...
She asked for special treatment from the police.
I'm a judge, and it's...
You're a judge?
Best thing about a lot of these behind-the-scenes things that I don't think we realized went on before we became judge.
I mean, I could lose my entire career.
You're right, Your Honor.
They don't believe.
And here's the thing, Your Honor. I could lose my entire career if I let you use the position that you being a judge...
I'm not using a position.
To do this.
And they did give her special treatment.
But if I do this test and you don't think I do well, I lose my career.
Yeah.
I mean, can you call... I'd like a witness. Can we call Ben Katrib? I'll call Sidney Miller, Sheriff Gonzalez. I mean, this is a huge deal for me.
Even though they believed that she had been drinking and they watched her driving on the wrong side of the road, she was let go with just a warning.
So I'm going to write you a warning citation for the speeding, 77 NA 65, and let it go at that. Fair enough? All right.
The cops covered up their body cams so that no video was saved, just the audio. Then she disappeared, which in and of itself made national news that this judge, who had handled several recent high-profile trials, had mysteriously disappeared.
Because our society, it's based on laws.
Well, now she has reappeared. She just got arrested and charged with a DUI. But not from this traffic stop where she had been let go with a warning, but rather a new incident.
Houston police arrested Judge Kelly Johnson early this morning. Officers described her as almost zombie-like and say she scored very low on a field sobriety test. It was her second such test in 2.5 months.
Judge Kelly Johnson is a prominent Democrat judge in Houston, Texas, who was elected twice in Harris County, Texas, once in 2016 and again in 2020, and I believe is actually up for election right now. She was well known as the first openly gay female judge in Harris County. Before taking the bench, she spent 17 years as a prosecutor.
And I hope to think that I was known as a very progressive prosecutor. And so I just got to a point in my career, I thought, I'm doing what I believe is right. If I get fired, I'm still a lawyer. I can always go out and be on the other side. But I really thought that I had a lot to contribute if I ran as a judge. It kind of gave me a different platform, a different seat in the courtroom, if you will.
At one point in time, she worked as the felony chief for the DA's office in the court that she now presides. She presided over several high-profile recent cases, such as the A.J. Armstrong case. She was actually right in the middle of a high-profile trial when this stop occurred. So this stop happened on April 12th at 8 p.m., only 3 days before Judge Johnson found this guy, Brian Coulter, guilty of murdering his girlfriend's son, whose body was left to rot for a year. In fact, she mentioned the case twice during the 45-minute encounter.
I'm a judge, and it's...
You're a judge?
I'm a criminal district judge, yes.
Okay.
Long week. Can I tell you where I've been?
Sure.
So I've been at I've tried the Brian Coulter case, which is y'all's, all week.
There, the judge is speaking to Harris County Sheriff's Deputy Sergeant McHugh, who can be heard explaining in the recording that he had stopped Judge Johnson for multiple traffic violations, that he witnessed her driving on the wrong side of the road on Jackrabbit Road near US 290.
Go to the next exit.
Drive to the next exit and get off the freeway.
Then after she was pulled over, McHugh said that he smelled alcohol.
Do you know the reason why you've been stopped?
I'm sure I was speeding.
Correct. And you're driving over on Jackrabbit. You're driving on the wrong side of the road?
Okay.
Okay. Have you had anything to drink tonight?
No.
You sure? Because it smells like either you've drowned yourself in perfume or...
If you would like to do a field sobriety test, you can.
All right. I'll have someone come over and take care of that.
Then Deputy Sandra Mace arrives to perform the field sobriety test. But when she gets there, Judge Johnson then does not want to get out of the car. Instead, she doesn't want Deputy Mace to perform the test. She wants to call the sheriff or other high-ranking law enforcement officials she knows so they can be a witness.
But if I do this test and you don't think I do well, I lose my career.
Yeah.
And this is, can you call, I'd like a witness. Can we call Ben Contrebe? I'll call Sydney Miller, Sheriff Gonzalez. This is a huge deal for me, okay?
Ma'am, here's the thing. I am her supervisor, okay? She is asking you to exit the car so she can admit her SFSTs to you. Everything we do is recorded on that camera, this body camera, everything that we hear. We're not calling Lieutenant Contrebe, and we're not calling Sheriff Gonzalez. This is an investigation into an impaired driver.
I could lose my entire career.
You're right, Your Honor.
And
here's the thing, Your Honor. I could lose my entire career if I let you use the position that you being a judge.
I'm not using a position
to do this. I smelt it. She sees that your eyes are. She sees that your eyes are red and bloodshot. So
she finally does get out of the car and she performs the field sobriety test. But because they were obstructing their own body cam cameras, we can't see the up-close results. But we can hear the deputies discussing her performance and the fact that she was likely drinking. But again, we see nothing because they were covering their cameras.
Multiple traffic violations, speeding, unsafe lane changes, driving on the wrong side of the road.
What? She's probably been drinking, just not to the level of...
When you got her out, could you smell it?
I could smell it then once she got out.
So I'm going to write you a warning citation for the speeding, 77 NA 65. And let it go at that. Fair enough? All right.
So even though they saw her speeding, they saw her driving on the wrong side of the road, etc., and they suspected that she was drinking, they let her go. They let her drive off, and there she went. And that could have been the end of it. Certainly this has happened many times before around the country. But then she disappeared, and there are all sorts of news articles on where she is. Then just a few days ago, on June 25th, she's still a presiding judge of the 178th Criminal District Court. She gets pulled over by an officer with the Houston Police Department and ends up getting charged with driving while intoxicated. Her lawyer gave a statement to the news media stating that his client was not intoxicated when she was pulled over and that she had volunteered to take a breath test. He said that the breath test came back 0.0, which means that there was no alcohol found in her system. He said this situation was not caused by alcohol or drug abuse issue. The brief medical episode is being immediately addressed with her doctor. She asks for privacy while addressing this personal health matter. She looks forward to returning to the bench and continuing to provide respect, fairness, and justice to all who come before her. The worst part about this is not the DUI. She wouldn't be the first judge or prosecutor or public official to get a DUI. The cover-up is always more concerning to me. Do we really even need a BAC or a drug test result? Because she did something worse. She got pulled over and she said, "Hey, I'm a judge and I demand special treatment. I demand special privileges." And she received those. The body cams were covered. Everything was kept quiet until she got in trouble again and disappeared. Had she just returned to the bench, we never would have heard about any of this. This only came out because the problem, whatever problem she was having, persisted. Eventually, it was going to come out, which it did. And that, in turn, exposed this little cover-up that happened. With evidence of this cover-up occurring, does it even matter whether she happened to be intoxicated while driving on that night in April? No, because the conspiracy that this uncovers is way worse. This illustrates the close relationship that exists between judges and law enforcement. And imagine if this had not even been exposed and the judge returns to the bench. She's now beholden to law enforcement or certain members of law enforcement who basically have dirt on her. She's compromised, basically. We don't even know what sort of quid pro quos are going on. Ethical issues aside, constitutional issues aside. And here's another thing. Why are the police protecting this woman when she was saying she doesn't even trust them to do the field sobriety test? If they're not trustworthy enough to do field sobriety tests on her, then what about the rest of us? This really is outrageous that that first incident was completely covered up. Imagine if just rather than her getting a DUI, she ended up killing somebody. So apparently the election is still ongoing right now. So if you're a voter in that district in Harris County, Texas, perhaps this is a good time to evaluate or reevaluate your options for the next round of judicial elections. Who involved in the law enforcement side of this has been held accountable thus far? Probably none. Are they going to hold anyone accountable for covering up and giving special treatment to a sitting judge in that jurisdiction for this incident in April of this year? The citizens ought to demand accountability. And if law enforcement officials aren't going to provide it, maybe they need to be replaced also. So thanks for watching. If you have a video you want me to review, please use the submission link below. Please subscribe both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. And if you're already subscribed on YouTube, check to make sure that they didn't unsubscribe you, as is happening to a lot of people. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.